Hello everyone, today is going to be a slightly different video than usually. Instead of actually playing games with any one deck, I'm simply going to showcase all the decks that did not get their own video this patch. And at the very end I'll show a couple of the of my personal predictions and what I would like to see in the coming TCG updates. So let's get started. The first deck that did not make it into its own video is this chlorine deck you see right here. So with the updated Grand Narukami Shrine and Sinchu Forest, I decided to try, of course, them out with chlorine. And since both Grand Narukami Shrine and Sinchu Forest, in my opinion, work well with chlorine when you are going for a one-round sweep. Of course, you can play other chlorine decks and still use them because this combination works very well together, especially with the weapon, the lo-fi weapon right here. But I was going for basically one-round sweeps, combining Layla's skill with Shilonen's damage buff, with weapon, with Stadium of Sacred Flame, and of course the Narukami Shrine and Sinchu Forest to give us those extra dice and discounts to basically kill any team in one round. Not that successful against aggressive decks that were able to pressure me while I still needed setup. Basically, you can fight with this deck. You can start fighting round 2, but ideally you start fighting round 3 and wipe the entire opponent team on round 3. And while it was fun, in the end it didn't make it into its own video. But to put it simply, the main gimmick here, Sinchu Forest gives you a discount when you have an even amount of dice before you choose your action, so at the start of your turn, each turn. If you have an even amount of dice, your normal attack costs one fewer unaligned element. And having both, if you had, to put it simply, if you already had an even amount of die when you start attacking with chlorine, all you needed to do was spend one die in the form of Mystic Soup or Strategize to get. So you spend 2 dice attacking, doing the normal attack with chlorine, the weapon gives you 1 dice back, you are back to, to put it simply, all you really needed to do to have an uneven amount of dice when you start doing normal attacks with chlorine. And then this whole combo would work out, because you have an uneven amount of dice, you do a normal attack, the weapon gives you 1 dice back, you now have an even amount of dice, Sinchu Forest gives you a discount, you do another normal attack, the weapon gives you a 1 dice back, you have an uneven amount of dice, the Grand Narukami Shrine activates because you have an odd number of dice, which reactivates Sinchu Forest, and that just goes on and on until you get full value from those 3 cards together. And of course the damage you can do with chlorine with all the possible buffs this deck can give you is very high. So yeah, that was the first deck that didn't quite make it into its own video. Next one is my older Heizo Dwelling deck. Now I was considering playing, Yansan right here instead of Mona, but this was my original creation. I didn't want to change it too much, since that I have a video of this deck, an older video from 2 patches ago. The current deck list you see, the card list here is updated to be more consistent, and the game plan, of course, at the same time has been changed from that original video. But very strong deck, works very well. Certified did defeat the Naval Dragon Chaska deck successfully. This deck right here has beaten it, and I actually have seen some people play this sort of deck right here, where it's Jansan instead of Mona, which of course can work, but now you are spending more time on Jansan instead of getting swirls with Dvalin, because of course in this version of the deck now you have to get Jansan's burst before going to Dvalin, whereas with the Mona all you need to do is one skill and you're gonna start swirling. But with Jansan you have to actually collect the burst, then you are ready to actually fight, and that would mean you would have to basically rework most of the deck. But what you see here, certified good deck. Maybe in the future I'll make another video of this, but for now it was a good fun deck. Now the next one, the Solo Dragon. Basically, I believe my first video of this patch 6.0 was with the Dragon, Chaska and a Pep. Well, after that video, well, I guess even in that video I don't quite remember anymore, but I think I mentioned the idea that you could very well just play the Dragon as your main carry, and this deck is exactly that. This is the Dragon as your main carry. As you can see by my action cards, a bunch of healing and protection, some extra dice from these, and of course Chef Mao, and even more protection for the Dragon. And the whole idea of this deck, you keep Dragon alive and you attack after you attack after you attack, and to put it simply, as long as the Dragon is alive, it's just so broken of a card, it beats basically every deck. Also, for context, this deck also has certified, it is certified Naval Dragon Chaska deck winner multiple times. In fact, I believe at least 3 wins against the Naval Chaska Dragon deck has been gained with this deck, and all by the simple fact that I keep my Dragon alive while the opponent loses their Dragon. Because usually against Dragon Chaska Naval deck with this one, at the end of round 2, if you are lucky with your cards, you can kill the opponent's Dragon, and the opponent's Naval doesn't have that much extra HP yet, so that the damage it does has not been increased as much, so that the Dragon can actually wipe the Naval from there. But to put it simply, the Dragon is so broken that all you need is only the Dragon. Like even Candice is here only to give, Chaska is here of course for the bullets, because to be honest, Dragon wouldn't be as broken as it is if it wasn't for Chaska. Because Chaska bullets are like the current thing why the whale decks are so everywhere. Chaska is the reason for that, and the same reason why the Dragon is so much stronger than it should be is because of Chaska. Because put it simply, Dragon's normal skill, considering you have no resentment stacks, 3 pyro damage. If you discard a Chaska bullet with that skill, that 3 damage gets increased to total of 6 damage. Because it's an instant swirl, and every of the opponent's characters takes 1 damage. So you do, instead of the usual 3 damage that would be perfectly fine and balanced, you do now 6 damage per skill that you can do at any point in the game, all based on just what sort of card luck you have with discarding. And you know, that's just stupidly OP. But enough about the Dragon. The next deck, Max HB Diona. Not much to say about this. The whole team gimmick is to use the Bond of Life artifact along with the Agua Simulacra weapon to get Diona to as much max HP as possible. Of course, I also have Glittering Gemstones and Mystic Soup, which also increase max HP and Fight for the Death Arcane card. It was fun to try out, but in the end, it would have been like at most show one clip of one game where you have Diona over 20 with over 20 max HP, and that would have been it. So, and not to mention this is basically a star deck, so each of the match I played took like 20 to 30 minutes. So it was not fun. Let's move on. Next, Navia. Now, of course, in this deck we are using the buffed Golden Wolf Lord with the skill now doing 2 geo damage, and I do have to say Wolf Lord's skill is quite likely one of the best or most valuable in the entire game now, especially if you got the talent card. Wolf Lord's skill with talent card, currently one of the best things you can do. The amount of damage, like one skill now basically gives you, and if you have the talent card, immediate, well, okay, let's actually put it this way. If you don't have the talent card, one skill gives you guaranteed 3 damage, which once again 3 damage is the baseline for any skill. Ayaka skill 3 damage, Chongyang skill 3 damage, Kaya skill 3 damage. 3 damage is the baseline. It's usually just that there's some little something, you know, baked into the skill that gives you in certain scenarios more value. And with Wolf Lord, that is of course the corrosion stacks. And to put it simply, now that there's the summon, there's the 2 damage, so 3 damage guaranteed, and another 3 damage from the corrosion. So basically one skill in one round can do a total of 6 damage. 5 damage if your opponent ends their round first. But if you end your round first and you have the talent card, for example, so that the Golden Corrosion certainly activates, you do 6 damage with 1 skill. And that is just ridiculous. I mean, of course, the only reason why Wolf Lord hasn't seen that much use is because Dragon is here. Dragon is just so much stronger than Wolf Lord, even with that. Even if you do consider, like, to get 6 damage with the Dragon, you need to discard a Chaska Bullet. To get 6 Dragon with the Wolf Lord guaranteed, you have to end your round first, and you have to have the talent card, or both. So it's a bit more, you know, demanding to get that 6 damage with the Wolf Lord, but it is ridiculous. And if Whale and Dragon both get nerfed in the coming updates, or some big changes are made to Chaska, I do think Wolf Lord is actually going to be used a lot more. Now the final deck that did not, and this was actually close, this almost made it into its own video, Mawika Ayaka. And to put it simply, this was a follow-up idea from my latest Chlorine deck, where basically we had Chlorine instead of the Cryocube, and characters were basically like this, and there would be Chlorine right there. So what was the idea behind this deck? Well, very simply, Mawika skill, 2 attacks with Ayaka, because of the buff to the passive skill that the basically plunging attacks, but in reality just normal attacks, do +1 damage. You could do, by just simply round 1, if you get Mawika skill and 2 normal attacks with Ayaka, you could do 11 damage constantly. Round 1. And 11 damage is enough to take out most characters in the game. Meaning if your opponent tried to do like Raiden burst, but couldn't burst the Raiden round 1, you could snipe Raiden or almost any other character. Of course, because 12 HP characters are the meta, I had to include a bunch of ways to do extra damage like Ayaka's talent card, Cryo Resonance and Heavy Strike. And with those cards you could do the 12 damage needed to take out any character in the game round 1. In the end, I did come to the conclusion that while the gimmick was very fun, you could absolutely succeed with it. I even had multiple people give up round 1 the moment their important character like Raiden or Shenhe gets sniped before they can burst. It was too unreliable. Because to get those 2 normal attacks round 1, you had to get either 2 free artifacts and Ball Princess, you had to get Gladiators or the extra die, or Northern Smoked Chicken. You had to have a decent amount of good dice, and even if you got the snipe off from round 2 onwards, your damage drops quite significantly, since now you have to redo Mawiga's skill, and you usually spend all your resources round 1 to snipe that one character, so that round 2 you can only really do one attack with Ayaka. Of course, it also meant that you could round 2 start with Ayaka, just do Ayaka skill plus Ayaka burst, which wasn't that bad, but to put it simply, not that good either. Very fun gimmick, works when your opponent doesn't see it coming, but in the end, too unreliable to be actually good. And of course Cryo Cube was there to tank the damage, with the revive and all. In the long game, the Cryo Cube was good to have for those reasons. Now we will move on to the last part of this video, which is what predictions for the coming update and a couple of changes I personally would like to see. Only for the character cards, for nothing else for now, because I don't think I can actually come up with. You should change the magic guide so that instead of damage it gives you energy after you do a skill, which would actually be a pretty good change now that I think about it. But so before we start with the predictions, I would like to state it is currently 14th of October. I have not seen any leaks or rumors about the coming changes. I've only seen, actually that is a bit of a lie, I've only seen the new character cards coming out to TCG. I do not know what their kits are, I do not know what action cards are coming out, and I do not know what balance changes are coming. The only thing I have heard was a rumor that the Whale's Burst is going to get nerfed so that it doesn't activate when you end your turn. Who is this? I do not recognize your name, so unfortunately you will be ignored, Rei. Anyway, the changes I want to see in TCG in the coming update. The dragon, either the resentment stacks need to discard, you need to either discard more cards than 6 to get the resentment stack, or what I consider to be quite likely, we are going to see the dragon nerfed to 10 HP. That is my guess. The dragon is going to get nerfed to 10 HP because the current reason why the dragon is a problem is that those decks that are good at countering the dragon are the ones that can take the dragon out early. So very aggressive decks. And decreasing the dragon's max HP makes it easier for decks that aren't as aggressive to quickly take down the dragon. So personally, my guess is going to be we are going to see the dragon change to 10 HP, or we are going to see a very radical change in the resentment passive skill, where you likely need like 8, maybe even 8 cards to get a resentment stack. Very unlikely in my opinion, but it would at least make it so that you are more reliant on the burst to get the resentment stacks. But yeah, likely dragon is going to get to 10 HP, and that is what I would personally like to see. Second thing I would like changed is Eula's skill. On release, actually, let me begin with one reason why Eula still has a place. There's exactly one place for Eula in the current meta, and that is if you are playing a Shatter deck. Because Eula, as you know, is a Claymore character capable of equipping the Wolf's Gravestone. But the only other Cryo character that can use a Greatsword are Chongyan, and we have Fremine. Fremine is good also in Shatter decks, but Fremine is basically you want to draw cards for Fremine to be good, because you don't get the Shatter bonus, the extra physical damage, if you don't draw cards. And basically Fremine is the kind of ideal do skill round 1 and then stack up those timers. So it's not as good as Eula is in... Well, actually, hold on, let me quickly... To put it simply, Eula is good in this deck right here, where you have either Sayu or Wanderer. Eula is good with this deck. Why? Because once you have frozen your opponents, unlike with Chongyan, whose skill makes it so your attacks do cryo damage, Eula does not do cryo damage with normal attacks, meaning you can do shatters with your normal attacks after you have frozen the opponent. So, while Eula currently still has a place in TCG, and that being in that one deck basically that I showed you there, she needs a buff to the skill. The burst would be too strong if, well, okay, you could just do the burst dealing 3 damage when played. Okay, that would be something. You could also make it so that when you use the burst, you get a free skill. I know that's quite radical, but if you consider the gameplay of Eula, you anyway want to do 2 skills instead of doing a skill and a normal attack. But basically, you could do that, or you could just be boring and put Eula to 12 HP and call it a day. But personally, I do think Eula needs some increase. Either make the base damage of the skill 3 cryo damage, and then the Grim Heart gives you +3, so you 3 plus 3, so you do your first attack does 3 damage and your second attack does 6 damage. Yes, quite radical, quite much stronger than most other characters, but I do think it would actually give Eula a chance to shine in the meta once again. And personally, like I mentioned, I do think something like this, using the burst, giving you a free activation of the skill, or at least a discounted activation of the skill, would be even better way to go, because the pure damage buff would be a bit how should I say it? It would just make Eula better in the decks she is already used in, like the one I showed you there. If you just increase the skill damage, it wouldn't create any new playstyles for Eula. It would only make her better in the decks she's already used in. But changing so that the burst gives you a discount for the skill would mean that there's actually one reason to play her talent card at times. There's reason to actually get more stacks, because the problem with Eula's burst is you usually burst her at the end of the round, meaning you get no time to get stacks for the burst, or you burst her at the start of the round, in which case you get a bunch of stacks, but you are probably unlikely to do, opponents are smart. Your opponents are smart. The players of this game, they are smart. They are not going to let their massive damage from Eula's burst go on to their most important character. They are going to keep one character like on 2 or 3 HP and have it tank all the damage. So increasing the burst base damage or giving a discount for the elemental skill, those are like, when using the burst that is, those are like the things I would really want to see with Eula. Because I really like playing Eula when she was released. But she has fell out of the meta, fell out of the game entirely since. There's that one deck, one free swirl deck with Eula that still is good. I mean, you can see here, I do like playing Eula, but it's been a while. And lastly, I would like to see a little small change to the Abyss Lecter Violet Lightning skill. What is this small little change? If the target is already affected by Electro, steal 1 energy from them. Do you want to know why this doesn't actually work? The answer is, the energy stealing happens before the skill grants energy to your Abyss Lecter. Meaning, if you have the Abyss Lecter at 1 energy, you use the skill on an opponent affected by Electro that has 1 or more energy. The stolen energy fills up the Abyss Lecter's energy, and then the energy actually gained from the skill goes to waste. And the very simple change I would like to see to this skill is that when you do the skill, you first gain the energy from the skill to the active character, which is the Abyss Lecter, then the stealing energy, or the stolen energy. Because the stolen energy can be acquired by your other characters as well. As you can see here, if this character's energy is already full, then the stolen energy will be given to the next character. If it worked in the proper order, this would be really good. Like, there's nothing else wrong with the Abyss Lecter. I do think, like, only other thing you could maybe do is increase the burst damage by 1. Because 3 damage base on a burst is, it's not good. I would like to see like burst to 4 damage, and even that isn't always actually not that necessary. But what I really want to see is change the skill so that the stolen energy is given after the skill itself gives the energy, because then you actually can like start your round on the Abyss Lecter and actually get that stolen energy for your characters. Like, if you start with Abyss Lecter, your opponent doesn't switch characters, opponent does 1 skill, you do 2 skills. You steal that 1 energy and it actually is gained by one of your characters. But yeah, the only other change I'm guessing we might see in the coming update, Ian-san might also get nerfed to 10 HP, but that's only like, my guess is 20% chance that Ian-san gets dropped to 10 HP. But yeah, this kind of video today and nothing else for now. I'll see you all in the next update.